Hey guys, welcome back to another cult movie review with me, Bo, here on the Film Scene Investigation channel. It's review time, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the 1995 movie Hackers. Yeah, I've had this movie on my watch list for some time, so it was good to finally get round to watching it and ticking it off the list. Just before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, Hackers from 1995 was directed by the filmmaker Ian Softly and starred an ensemble cast that included the likes of Johnny Lee Miller and a young Angelina Jolie. The late screenwriter Raphael Monroe handled the screenplay, which was heavily based on the cyberpunk movement of the time. Now, I can't say that I've ever been that interested in computers, computer programming, coding, all that kind of stuff. I've never really taken an interest in it. But with that said, I was interested in seeing how a mid-90s movie would handle the newly emerging technology of the time. We shouldn't forget that back in 1995, the internet was in its infancy. So you have to imagine that a lot of people that went to the theaters and watched Hackers for the first time probably, had never owned a computer before. So for many, it was a really eye-opening experience. So when it comes to the narrative, the movie began with a sequence involving a young child called Dade Murphy being taken to court over his involvement in hacking. The kid looked so innocent, it was kind of hard to believe that he would be able to cause so much trouble, but he did. He was taken to court. His family were fined, and Dade was summoned to not use a computer until he turned 18 years old. Fast forward 7 years later, and the movie picked up with Dade, now played by actor Johnny Lee Miller, living with his mother in New York. The court case caused a lot of issues within the family, and eventually the parents split. Now Dade was 18, he was able to freely roam the internet and infiltrate any computer systems he so wished. We saw Dade enroll in his new high school, where he became friends with some other hackers like Freak, who was played by actor Renoli Santiago. At first, the group were a little apprehensive when it came to Dade, since he was the new kid after all. But once they realized who exactly Dade was and his history of hacking, suddenly they became very welcoming. While Dade played it all down, his notoriety ended up helping him fit in with the rest of the group. So one of the hackers, called Joey, who was played by actor Jesse Bradford, wanted to show off his skills, so he decided to hack a supercomputer that was owned by this mineral corporation. Joey was the youngest of the hackers, and because of that, he felt the need to prove himself to the rest of the group, but, to infiltrate a large computer network, that was never going to go down well. Joey's computer skills ended up alerting the corporation's security officer, a guy called Belford, who was played by actor Fisher Stevens. He was funneling money out of the corporation. Nobody knew, but with the sudden security breach, suddenly all eyes would be on Belford to see how he would rectify the situation. Belford was supposed to be this, great security officer, this hacker that knew what he was doing. But the fact that Joey ended up breaching the security ultimately made him look incompetent. Belford was angry, he was upset, and he was the type of guy that, wasn't going to just let things go. So he decided to create this virus and basically blame it on the group. This computer virus would cause major issues all around the world, but the group found out just in time and decided to fight back. They ended up hacking the corporation's computer system again, but this time bringing it down for good. Towards the end of the movie, I did find the storyline getting a little bit convoluted. And I'm not too sure if that was just me being slow or if the storyline was getting overly complicated for no real reason. I mean, it started out good, but the longer it went on, I was getting pretty restless. But with that said, on a positive note, I did really love the film's Gen X 90's aesthetic. From the music to the fashion, even to the set designs. Hackers brought the cyberpunk Y2K movement into the mainstream. I want to focus in on the fashion here for a moment, because there really were some unique pieces of clothing that were featured, like the white and red leather jacket that Kate wore. Angelina Jolie already looked like a badass, she could handle herself, but once she donned that biker jacket, she certainly seemed like a person not to be messed with. I also really loved the Lou Reed shirt that Cyril wore during one of the party scenes. Now, a normal band t-shirt would have been fine, but the fact that it was, glittery and gold and, really kind of popped visually, it was just a great choice. I'll definitely be looking for that shirt online, and hopefully somewhere, somehow, on some eBay listing, that shirt will be available. The costume designer, Roger Burton, did a brilliant job in styling the ensemble cast. And I guess for me, the reason I love it so much is because I don't really see the cyberpunk Y2K fashion, in and around me in current day. So just kind of unique, and I just love the look. Looking deeper into the movie's fashion aesthetic, it's important to remember that hackers really did embody that traditional punk mentality of do it yourself. I mean, just look at the story. The group stuck together, they rejected the corporate authority, and they went their own way and challenged the status quo. I also have to give credit to the set designers, Alicia Winter and Joanne Woolard, for their amazing work creating some really unconventional backdrops for the film. Those set designs gave the movie its own unique identity, and in particular, I loved the cafe hangout spot that had to be my favorite location in the film. From the weird, colourful artwork that was on the walls to the big screens that were playing the computer games, it just seemed like a really awesome place to hang out with your friends. While the practical side of things impressed me, I can't say the same about some of the CGI effects that we saw on screen. The filmmakers incorporated various 3D graphics and effects to basically represent system interfaces and data streams. I appreciated their efforts, but obviously technology has moved on so more now. It's so far advanced that, those graphics look extremely dated. I guess I just have to remind myself that obviously at the time it was very groundbreaking. And like I said, a lot of the audience watching the movie, didn't own a computer at all. I probably had never used a computer, so it is a product of its time. While some of the effects didn't work, nobody can deny that the filmmakers tried to push the boundaries when it came to visual storytelling. It should be noted that Hackers was pioneering for basically predicting future outcomes that we see today. For example, the security breach, cybersecurity in general, that is a very relevant topic in today's society. The movie also predicted virtual reality with the Eugene Belford character using a VR headset. We saw Belford headset on, having a great time. And obviously VR is just something that we just have in our everyday lives now. But back in 1995, I could imagine the audiences must have found it pretty goofy. As for the performances, I thought actor Johnny Lee Miller did a pretty good job in the lead role, playing the character Dade. He didn't start out as, a leader, but he certainly ended the film leading the group. I haven't really seen many Johnny Lee Miller movies. This one, it was good. I still preferred his performance in Trainspotting from 1996, the movie he did after Hackers. But he was good. He was competent, and he certainly proved that he could carry a film in the lead role. I thought actor Matthew Lillard was pretty good in the role as Cyril, this obnoxious hacker in the group. Lillard once again played a very, zany character, something that we've all seen many times before. And once again, it kind of made me understand how he ended up playing roles like Shaggy in Scooby-Doo. He kind of got typecast in those goofy roles. As for actress Angelina Jolie, she was a standout, playing Kate, the charismatic hacker who had this love-hate relationship with Dade. Like many watching this, I'm very aware of Angelina Jolie as this, big-time celebrity, on the red carpet. But to be honest, I haven't really seen many of her films. I know she's a pretty good actress, but it was really interesting to see her in an early film role, prior to her big-time fame. It was clear that she was a star in the making, and that wasn't necessarily down to her acting ability, but she really did have a strong, charismatic screen presence. Her character Kate ended up romantically involved with Dade at the end of the movie, something that was pretty predictable from the start. You got this guy, saves the day, the hero, and ends up, getting the girl at the end. A very traditional Hollywood trope. But even with the predictability, I have to say that the on-screen chemistry between Angelina Jolie and Johnny Lee Miller really did elevate the film, and it was kind of more interesting than the overall main hacking storyline. I guess you could say that at times the movie wanted to be this romantic teen comedy, but obviously it only lightly touched upon that. It was mainly about hacking. Their interactions never felt forced, and while the people around them were, wild and crazy and very loud and obnoxious, those two felt very grounded, and so their relationship felt very relatable. And so, dislikes for Hackers from 1995. My biggest dislike for the film would have to be the characterization of the villain Eugene Belford. Now, I thought the actor Fisher Stevens, who played the character, I thought he did a good job with the material he was given, but overall, I just didn't buy this guy, as a serious threat. He was just this smarmy, dweeb type character who, I couldn't take seriously. And what didn't help matters was some of the goofy stuff that the character got up to. like the character's introduction, the first time we saw Eugene Belford, and these double doors open, and there he comes riding a skateboard. And yeah, immediately I was like, what is this? You know, was it supposed to be funny? I don't know. Like, I didn't get it. And the fact that this was the introduction to the character, you know, he's supposed to be this, you know, big villain in the story, you know, it was ruined by this, was it poor attempt at humor by the filmmakers? You know, if Hackers was a straight up teen comedy, then absolutely, you know, a scene like that, you know, a characterization of a goofy villain type character, absolutely, you know, it works. But Hackers wasn't that, you know, it was pretty much a straightforward drama with some light-hearted, you know, comedy here and there. You know, ultimately, the fact that I never really felt that Belford was a genuine threat, I didn't take him seriously, and that ended up, you know, making me not really care about the overall conclusion to the story. And so, ratings for Hackers from 1995. I'm going to be rating this movie a solid 3.9 out of 10. I found Hackers to be an entertaining and stylized movie about a group of rebellious teenagers in the mid-90s. While it's definitely a product of its time, like I mentioned before, I will say that the movie had this overall optimistic energy about it, and that was something that, you know, I feel is missing from today's cinema. So for that was definitely a positive. Clearly, all the actors and crew, all those that were involved in the production, yeah, it was obvious that they had a great time making this movie. But yeah, I just can't deny that towards the end of the film, I started to get a bit restless and started losing my interest. You know, I'm not going to say that it was style over substance, but the visuals and effects were far greater and more interesting than the actual narrative. You know, and I should also once again just say that I've never really been into computer programming, coding, or anything like that. So yeah, maybe the storyline just wasn't for me. That said, if you are into, you know, coding and all that kind of stuff, then perhaps you'll probably like the storyline a lot more than I did. If you've seen Hackers, then please let me know your thoughts and memories in the comments section below. For those who haven't, it is a minor recommendation from me. It definitely has a lot of good things going for it, but ultimately Hackers isn't, you know, important must-see TV. And well, that's all from me today, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this review of Hackers from 1995. I will be back next week with another cult movie review. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. And of course, take care.